I want to thank our reader, Judy Johnson, who always does a wonderful job, and Eddie Anderson and our CSL music team for the beautiful music to support the message today. We're continuing on our journey through Living Untethered, and today concentrating on part 3, the mind. It includes chapters 11 through 15, Empty Mind, Birth of the Personal Mind, Fall from the Garden, The Veil of the Psyche, and The Brilliant Human Mind. In this part of the book, Singer enters into the complexities of the human mind and its impact on our spiritual journey. Before we go further, let me give you the question for the week. What is the one choice you can make today to experience creation as it comes, to neither cling nor resist experiences, and to be comfortable learning and growing from life's experiences? One more time. What is that one choice you can make today to experience creation as it comes, to neither cling nor resist experiences, and to be comfortable learning and growing from life's experiences? So we begin with the empty mind, which is the first chapter here in this section. And it has a whole lot of actual terms that Singer defines. And one of them is about the empty mind. Buddhists talk about empty mind. In the purest sense, that is what we were referring to when we use the term mind. It is a field of energy with nothing in it. There are no thoughts. There's just an absolutely still, formless field of energy we call mind. This is not conceptual. You can go there. Meditators who have gone deep understand this. You just rest in void, in empty mind. You're there, but there are no thoughts. It's just completely quiet, completely empty. That place of resting in the void is a fabulous place when we can achieve it. And today I want to talk about how we can become more proficient at achieving it. Singer likens the empty mind to a computer with no software. Hey, I can relate to that. I was thinking about that when I read that line because I recently got a new computer and had an opportunity to just have on it what I wanted the software to be. Not all that junk that accumulates over time on systems after they've been connected to a network for a while. So let's think about what it would be like to have an empty mind, to be able to just install the thoughts that bring us joy and happiness, and not have any of those unhappy and painful thoughts that we've accumulated over our lifetime of being on this planet. And for each of us, Singer writes, different things are experienced in different ways. The Buddhists say everything has its nature. It is so true that we each have our own nature and do indeed experience things differently. We see sunsets and sunrises from our own perspective. We find we like certain people and want to spend time with them, and yet other people who may be adored by some of our friends, we care little about. Singer tells us in the chapter on Birth of the Personal Mind, you live in a happening place filled with growthful experiences. You are simply in there, experiencing creation as it comes in and passes through you. And how creation passes through us is based on what our life has been up until that present moment. Those experiences in life that have impacted us, whether they be wonderful food or horrible food, beautiful experiences in nature or scary experiences, all of them implant images in our mind that impact how we react to what we're seeing, smelling, touching, tasting, and hearing. No longer is our mind empty. It is now a hodgepodge of what I've decided to call accumulated thought software. I know that when I hear a loud thunder, I'm often startled by it, but I'm not fearful of it. I did have a good friend visiting Louisiana, and we had a typical thunderstorm, and I watched as he was quite concerned about what damage it might cause. If I had grown up in a war zone where the same noises are similar to bombs being dropped, I'm sure that that same thunderbolt would bring about some level of fear in me. But I grew up in Louisiana, so it doesn't. I know you've all heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. People who have experienced severe trauma or life-threatening events, whether it be during a time of war or in a non-combat situation, often develop symptoms of PTSD. Perhaps because during the event, they felt as if their life and the lives of others were in danger, or maybe because they felt they had no control over what was happening. Our mind logs trauma and hangs on to it. And when our senses interpret something similar, we feel the fear as though it was just happening. It's a lot like having a hidden virus on our computer. It just keeps showing up and wreaking havoc with us until we either get rid of it or learn how to avoid it or deal with it. Maybe there should be a diagnosis of ATSD, accumulated thought software disorder, so that we would see that it truly is something that needs healing in our lives. But there isn't, and so often we just go about our business not realizing all the software that we've accumulated over time. Singer says, "This learning through life is true spiritual growth. It is the evolution of the soul. Just like everything you learn makes you smarter, every experience you have makes you wiser." As we become wiser, we become more attuned to those things in our now not so empty mind that wreak havoc in our lives. We begin to notice the behaviors that no longer serve us. Perhaps there are times when we got angry with someone who was just trying to do their best, or we berated ourselves because we didn't do something we kept saying we were going to do, or maybe we didn't do something up to our own standards that we've learned to place on ourselves over time. I bet we can all relate to times like those, right? Singer reminds us that we have all experienced those rare moments of truly living in the present and just letting the now of the moment come in from the outside world. For me, those times I can get lost in a sunset or a sunrise or in a beautiful melody and realizing I was just experiencing the beauty of it. Singer speaks of this as one-pointed consciousness, when our entire consciousness is focused on the experience we're having in that moment. As Singer writes, that is what the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali describe as the experiencer and the experience becoming one. You have allowed a merger between subject and object. There's nothing distracting your consciousness from what is happening right in front of you. This is the yoga state of dharana, one-pointed consciousness. I know that I often say, wow, I lost myself in that moment, or I got so caught up in the experience that I lost track of time. However we express it, it's those moments when we truly have an empty mind. Nothing from our past and no thoughts of the future are interfering with our present moment experience. Singer writes, when you commit to spiritual growth, you work on letting go of the stocked blockages from the past and not storing any more from the present. This does not mean the mind's normal memory storage process does not take place. You are not willfully forgetting life's experiences. You are simply not resisting or clinging to the experiences, and that's not storing them as samskaras. They remain harmless, objective memories. We begin our lives with an empty mind, a clean slate as to what creation is, and we live in that garden of beauty until we encounter resistance. And then we go about adding images to our mind that we label as pleasant or unpleasant, delightful or frightening, good or bad, happy or sad. In the chapter, Fall from the Garden, we learn that resistance is where the fall begins. When we are in the state of enjoying what is, of accepting what is in front of us, such as beautiful music, a wonderful walk in nature, we're living in the garden. Then along comes that rattlesnake and our garden is no longer delightful. Well, for me, it could even be a garden snake. I mentioned samskaras in that last quote. In ancient Upanishads text, these experiences we hang on to, whether they be pleasant or not, are called samskaras. They are the impressions and dispositions that develop and accumulate deep inside our person, from perception, inference, choices, preparation, practice, interaction with others, thoughts we have, intent, willful actions, among other things. Samskaras are the roots of our physical, mental, and emotional conditioning and habit patterns. And the more we repeat an action, the more it becomes ingrained within us, to the point that it becomes our default reaction, and we don't even realize where it comes from. Now, think about when you were learning to ride a bike. The more you rode the bike, the easier it got, and it soon became second nature to you. The same is true of our thought patterns. The more we reinforce them, the more they become our default reactions without our true awareness. It just becomes second nature. Singer writes this: if you are quietly centered in conscious awareness, you can see what is passing before you. You are the ultimate experience of your mind. You're just not paying attention. When the world around you comes in and hits or activates your stored patterns, you can no longer observe reality objectively. Your consciousness gets drawn into the activated samskaras, and everything becomes distorted. This is the foundation of the psyche, yourself. How often does it happen to you that you're enjoying an experience, maybe a sunset, reading a book, having a great conversation with someone, and suddenly something changes? Perhaps the sun fully sets and so the beautiful colors are gone, or someone interrupts your reading, or a new person joins the conversation and changes the topic. And suddenly, what you were enjoying vanishes. Singer explains this from the perspective of how we experience life. Everyone has different experiences, and therefore, everyone is building a different personal mind inside. No one is doing it purposefully. It's reactive. It happens quite naturally because you're not ready to openly experience life. The highest state is to be comfortable learning and growing from life's experiences. If you're not comfortable with some experience, you use your will to resist them. We can use our will to resist experiences with which we are not comfortable, or we can make the choice to see everything in life as divine order, to know that God is for us, as we discussed last week, and that whatever is showing up is a gift, even if it might look like a gift in disguise to us. I imagine each of us has had something in our life that at the moment we felt was a really bad situation, only to find out later in time that it was actually a blessing in disguise, right? I know I can think of a number of times in my life when that happened. How about you? Singer writes, when events come in, they are meant to be experienced by you. If you have trouble experiencing them, that's the whole purpose of learning to accept. What right do you have to either cling or to resist reality? You don't make reality, and you weren't here for the billions of years that created it. Now, that first statement is the essence of this entire discussion today. When events come in, they're meant to be experienced by us. Now, I know I often resist reality. I don't want the change in the situation, especially when I'm truly engaged in a moment of joy. I would rather cling to it, and I might even log a grievance that eventually needs forgiveness when someone disturbs my peaceful moments. Singer's words remind us that our moments of resistance keep us from learning what we're meant to learn from that experience. He said, the highest state is to be comfortable learning and growing from life's experiences. Let's think about that power of creation that is manifesting as we speak. The creation that began billions of years ago when we weren't around. Know that reality is a means to assist you on your spiritual journey to liberation and freedom. My parents were all about roots and wings, giving my sister and I strong roots in our faith and in our self-worth so that we could spread our wings and fly to be the best people we could be. I know many people didn't have those loving images embedded in their minds by their parents. Many people had viruses that spoke of unworthiness, of lack. Overcoming those viruses and learning to accept the truth of worthiness and abundance takes a willingness to rid our minds of the negative samskaras and replace them with images from a one-pointed consciousness. In the chapter titled The Veil of the Psyche, there's a great Zen story called Just Tree. And I want to tell you that story right now because it explains a lot of what I've been talking about. There was a young Buddhist monk living in a monastery who would go for daily sessions with the Zen master. The master would ask him a few questions and then the monk would leave. And one time when the young monk walked in, the Zen master looked at him and remarked, "What happened to you? You look so alive and filled with light." The young monk was surprised. "What do you mean?" "I see a difference in you, my son. What happened?" So the monk told him, "I was walking across the courtyard and saw this big oak tree. I stopped and looked at it. I'd seen it many times before, but this time I saw just tree. I just saw the tree. Somehow, it took me to such a deep place that I felt an awakening. I felt a moment of enlightenment. It took me beyond myself. That tree has been there for 100 years, the master reflected. You've walked by that tree every single day since you've been here. Yes, the student said. But when I previously walked by the tree, it often reminded me of the tree Buddha sat under when he reached enlightenment. And other times, the tree reminded me of the one I fell out of when I was little. The tree always stimulated thought patterns from my past. This time, I saw just tree. And the Zen master smiled. That young monk experienced one-point consciousness. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with our minds or with computers, with no software for that matter. They are what they are. It's how we use them that makes a difference. Singer reminds us we have a brilliant human mind. We've built skyscrapers and sent a man to the moon. And as you heard in today's reading, compare that to what any other animals have done. They are living exactly the same as they did 1,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. You're not. Your mind figured out everything was made of atoms, then you figured out how to split the atom. The human mind actually figured out how the universe was made, all the way down to the quantum level. The human mind is an amazing thing. That is some serious stuff we've figured out. Yes, our mind is amazing, and we can figure out a lot. As a matter of fact, Singer invites us to look at the many layers of our mind. The first layer is where the rendering of the present external experience is taking place. We can call that the here and now layer. The next layer is the stored patterns in the past that you did not release when the external experience was over. We can call that the samskaras layer. But there is yet another layer. This layer is what you're doing with your brilliant mind to try to solve the discomforts created by the samskaras. This is the personal thoughts layer, and it's the one you identify with the most. You think this is who you are. The combination of these three layers is what we call the personal mind. Yours is completely unique to you and you alone. Our mind is completely unique to ourselves. There's no other mind exactly like it. And what Singer tells us is that we each work to be okay in this world. Somewhere we have a belief that the universe should be a certain way. And we want the world that we see to be a world the way we want it to be. However, I've spent 3 messages now describing why that should be a big red flag. We are truly at war with the universe if we're just trying to avoid negative samskaras. So I want to end with this. Singer put it this way. What good is it to analyze how you need things to be if you're not also going to think about how to get them that way? First, we figure out the strategy of how to be okay. Then we figure out the tactics of how to make it happen. Strategy and tactics, that's military training. In essence, we are at war with the world. So in summary, how might you step fully into living untethered while being aware of your brilliant human mind? Well, I suggest experiencing creation as it comes, and know that every experience makes you wiser. So let the present moment totally into your being. Neither cling to nor resist experiences. Learn to accept events as they are. Accept everyone's life's experiences as unique to them. And learn and grow from those life experiences. Notice how amazing the human mind truly is. And just learn to be okay in the world you're experiencing. Embrace all 3 layers of your personal mind. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it I so willingly, energetically, and effortlessly experience creation as it comes, neither clinging nor resisting experiences, and am comfortable learning and growing from life's experiences? So make a conscious choice this week to notice where you're clinging or resisting life's experiences, and let go of your negative samskaras. Notice those times of one-pointed consciousness, and find a way each day to learn from a life experience. Let's pray. So I invite you to take a deep, nourishing breath. Close your eyes if it's comfortable, and just settle into embracing this message. To know that God is right where we are. That God that is love and joy and happiness and peace. And I know, being one with the divine, that I am that joy and happiness and peace. And I know that to be the truth for myself and for everyone in this community and everyone on this planet. And what I know to be the truth is that we have come here today with open hearts and open minds, and learn to open our hearts and minds to learning and growing from life's experiences. That we are indeed living in this present moment and allowing our mind to take in the beauty and the joy. And we are releasing those negative experiences that we don't see serving us anymore. They may have become second nature, like riding a bike, but it's time for a new bike. I am so grateful that you have chosen to spend some time with us today. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to be in community and to create a space where we can know that the present moment is all that we've got. So I am grateful, and I just release these prayers into the divine yes, because I know it's already done. So I can say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is. I'm also truly grateful to all the people that are continuing to contribute, and to those who regularly contribute. It is such a loving gesture to support a community where love and acceptance and radical inclusion abide. So thank you to everyone, and I hope you all enjoy our offertory song.